The Colorado Avalanche have made another trade with goaltenders, their second in 10 days as they try to stabilize the situation in net. I'm Shawn Drotar, Nate Lundy on my right. And Nate, the Avalanche make a deal here for another goaltender, Mackenzie Blackwood from the Sharks. They trade Alexandar Georgiev, Nikolai Kovalenko, who made his debut in the playoffs last year, a second-round draft pick in 2026. The Avs don't have a lot of draft picks to play with, and a 2025 fifth-rounder. They get back Blackwood, Givani Smith, the winger, and 2027 fifth. So sort of an oddball, a couple years off fifth pick swap. It is, and in Smith's case, a former second rounder in 2016, has played 5 games this year, no points for the Sharks, hasn't been able to get going on the NHL level yet. Essentially, this is Kovalenko for Blackwood and a dump of free agent to be Alexandar Georgiev, who the Avalanche appear to have been completely done with.
Yeah, dump is the operative word. That's exactly what they needed to do. No offense to Alexander, no offense to the times that he stood on his head and had the crowd at Ball Arena chanting Georgie, but it was time to make some kind of a move. They already had done one, obviously, in going out and picking up Wedgwood and trying to do something from a goaltending standpoint. I think as a fan, I am still a bit frustrated because I do believe that you're now sitting with 2 backups and you don't really have a starter. But at the same time, you didn't have a starter with Justus Annunen, and you clearly didn't have a starter with Alexandar Georgiev because you just couldn't trust him. And you could see the frustration not only from Georgie, but from his teammates from the blue line and from the forwards as well, in the recognition that he just wasn't getting the job done between the pipes. What I'm hoping for is as he goes into the next phase of his career that he finds what he had before, because he is more than capable of being a starting goaltender in the NHL. You just got to be able to get, off your butt and actually stop pucks that you can see. So I'm hoping that this new change of venue will help him. But on the flip side, now we're worried about the burgundy and blue, and you're trying to figure out whether or not you can piece together 2 backups and somehow come up with 1 + 1 = 3. That's what this team's trying to do.
Yeah, and the argument we made when they won the Stanley Cup a couple years back, you kind of did that with Pavel Francouz and Darcy Kemper, although Kemper, I think at that point, was a starter in the league, although maybe a bit of a fringy one for sure. So maybe trying to make that happen once again. The Avs have been playing better of late. Obviously, they have won 3 of their last 4. Wedgwood shut out the Devils, 25 stops all 25 shots, and that's a good spot. But Wedgwood is 32 years old, has a contract through next season, and that's it. He is a career backup, and I think when you think about that, that's the fit. So the question is with Mackenzie Blackwood, who is a little bit is younger, certainly at 28. So still, when you're talking about goaltenders in your prime, and a guy that's had some interesting years. He had a 22-win year with the Devils back in the 2019-2020 season, but he has really not gotten established on the NHL level. 81 and 91 in his career, goals against a 3.07. That's not much farther than where he is right now with the even 3 and a save percentage of 904. He's a little better right now at a 910, but the scary part is both of those numbers, those last 2, the goals against and save percentage, better than anything the Avs had in net. So even though we're talking about the idea of cobbling 2 backups, hoping you can make 1 + 1 = 3, the 2 backups you have are better than the 2 guys you had. It's incremental, I suppose, but for the Avs, I think it's just a sign that they are not going to let the primes of 3 Hall of Famers in Nathan MacKinnon, Cale Makar, and Mikko Rantanen just go by the wayside a season at a time without doing something. So, yeah, is there a bit of a panic lever here because you give up on a good prospect in Kovalenko? Yes, but at the same time, it feels like it needed to be done. You can't be sitting there with what we're talking about, say, with the Denver Nuggets, with Nikola Jokic, lifting the team night after night after night on a team that just doesn't look like it's going anywhere. The Avs couldn't afford it. They had to make trades. When you see both goaltenders shipped out in 10 days, Nate, I'm trying to remember the last time I've seen that anywhere.
Well, they also, I think, missed out on an opportunity to have done that in the offseason and not waited as long as they did, because I think they kind of knew what they had. I'll say this about Kovalenko. I agree that obviously you're letting loose of a prospect. But if you think about the beginning of this season and the number of injuries and the things that the Avs were dealing with, and you're still talking about Kovalenko, who only averaged about 10 minutes on ice per game. If he was that much of a prospect and you saw that much of an on-ramp for him, I feel like we would have seen him for more than just 10 minutes of TOI on a night. So, maybe this is yes, you're giving up on a prospect, but maybe this is somebody that you aren't necessarily as high on as you might be with some of the others. So I do agree you're having to give up on something, but we also knew, we've been saying on this show now for weeks, that if you were going to try to shore up what was happening between the pipes, you were going to have to be willing as an Avs fan to give up something that might make it a little bit painful. So Georgie, to your point, Shawn, you're talking about a free agent to be all this, like Georgie wasn't going to be here. So as far as I'm concerned, this is, in my opinion, yes, I know there's some picks and things like that. To me, this is Kovalenko for Blackwood.
Yeah, and you move on from Georgiev, and just the problem. There's nothing to discuss about getting him right because he's not on the roster.
So you're good there. So to me, like I said, I know there's picks, I know there's all those kinds of things. This to me is a 1-for-1. It's, we gave up a prospect and got ourselves some goaltending help that we desperately need. I think the other thing that has to be talked about, beyond the stats, beyond the save percentage, beyond the time on ice or anything like that, are two important factors. First and foremost, one of the things that we know about backup goaltenders in the National Hockey League is, can they handle it if they are asked to make 40, 45, 50, 55 starts over the course of a season? Perhaps what Jared Bednar and the Colorado Avalanche believe is that they're just going to have these guys balance, and they're going to give them the nights off when they need it, but they're going to try to ramp them into the idea of a starter schedule, because obviously your hope, in particular with Blackwood, in my opinion, is that you've got somebody that's going to also help you in 2025, 26. So you're going to need to find out how they can handle that night in and night out workload. Not the idea of back-to-backs. That's not what I'm referring to. I'm just saying, if you've got, every other day for, 4 games in a row, can you find somebody that can handle 3 out of those 4 and then pop in your backup for the other one? That is always the question when you're talking about backup goaltending in the NHL, is can they handle that kind of a starter's regime that you have to be able to do? The other thing, Shawn, that this screams to me over the course of the last 10 days is a clear, I mean, crystal clear message to the rest of this roster that the upper management and the senior folks within KSE recognized that they needed to do something to show support to the guys that were busting their ass and still finding ways to lose because the goaltending wasn't up to par. Sometimes what is happening from a trade standpoint, you folks know this if you follow sports enough, there is a mental aspect to it. And what you're trying to do is show Nathan McKinnon and Mikko Rantanen and Cale Makar and Devon Taves, and I can keep going, Val Nichushkin, everybody. We recognize it's a problem. We know it needed to be fixed. This is what we have done. And the other thing that it tells me, Shawn, is if they get to the trade deadline and they still haven't found the answer, that they might not be done, because what's important is that the team didn't wait until the deadline to do this. They recognized they needed to do it now.
Out of the top 14 teams in the league in scoring, and the Avalanche sit at 7, only 2 of them, the Avalanche and the Blue Jackets, are underwater when it comes to goal differential. So the idea is, if you can just get consistent, if not spectacular play, but consistent play, the Avalanche tend to score enough to get things going, and that's sort of the hope. And you're right. In Blackwood's case, a tremendous opportunity. 28, he is a free agent after the season. The career history indicates he's not going to get a massive deal, but the idea is, what if he's a good fit on the Avalanche? Big-bodied guy, 6'4", 230, big frame. The idea, like Darcy Kemper, you can just get out there and at least just, gobble up a lot of space, make it hard for the shooters. The other point you made that on Kovalenko, because most of the people that I've heard about in the brief time since the trade here is the concern that Kovalenko is a big piece of the puzzle. Let me give you a little bit of it. Now, Givani Smith has not been able to get himself ready yet, but another big body, 6'2", 214. Maybe the Avs see something there, former second-round pick. There's some confidence in that. But how about this? If you were to look at 2 Avalanche players right now and say one of them, it has 5 goals and 3 assists. The other has 4 goals and 4 assists. They both have 8 points on the year. One's -4 in the plus-minus. One's -7. One plays 12 minutes a game. One plays 11. Does it matter all that much?
No.
Well, one is Ivan,
yeah,
who's basically been actually slightly better than Kovalenko. He's 3 years younger, and they didn't expect him to be able to take that role. So maybe the Avs are already there. And if they get something with Smith, great. If they get healthier, great. But this is an opportunity for Blackwood, a bigger body, a different kind of goaltender that the Avs have had luck with, for example, like in Kemper, then maybe this works out. But it feels simultaneously desperate, but also desperate at the right time. Because what you pointed out, you're almost quite halfway through the season, 29 games into the season here. If you're the Avalanche, you do have to send a message to that roster. We are still going for it. We believe we still have the talent to get this done. And you're right. If for some reason you're not seeing it, there's still time to make another move. Who knows what you have left to deal.
The worst position to be in if you're desperate is the inability to look in the mirror and recognize you're desperate. To me, this was a statement of a recognition that things weren't right and it was time to fix it.
So good move for the Avalanche. We both agree here. You know, a little bit of pain here and there.
Something.
But you have to do something. When you have this much talent, you cannot let it go. We'll find out tomorrow. The Avs get it going on Tuesday night in Pittsburgh against the Penguins. They have a bunch of games this week, Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, Monday. We'll have an opportunity to probably see both those goaltenders. Wedgwood may get the start after getting the 25-save shutout. We'll see, but they'll get Blackwood in there soon enough. So the Avalanche make a big trade. The goaltending situation still in flux, but a couple of new names in only 10 days. We'll find out how it works out for the Avs starting tomorrow. For Nate Lundy, I'm Shawn Drotar. This is Mile High Sports.